heart attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty, hello everybody. This is Kirusho here. Now, whenever we last left off with this series, things were a little bit different. Tomura Shimura is a hero, and Midoriya did have to go to Meihatsume to try and find out hero designs for a costume. Now, after him and Mei do talk and actually start working on concepts and things about it, Midoriya does have it somewhat planned out and picked out. He does have a cape that, well, is going to be added. It doesn't really matter, but the cape will at least help him in case anything does happen. And it will allow him to keep his lower body and his torso hidden. So he can't just randomly pull a quirk out of nowhere. Now, along with that, he does have gauntlets that will cover his forearms, all the way up to around the palm of his hand, and covering the top of his knuckles. Now, these designs were easy to come up with, and it is roughly around the end of the school day. In fact, school has just gotten out. Midoriya heading back to Class 1A, and getting his assignments. Now, Mr. Aizawa does try and stop Midoriya. The only reason why he let him talk with Meihatsume was because he did need to get his hero costume sorted out. But what he didn't expect was Midoriya to be gone during the whole class period, simply trying to get answers out of the boy, before Midoriya cuts him off, simply telling Mr. Aizawa that this is a very serious matter, and he does not toy around. All of his life he's had to do certain things. He's had to tiptoe around certain things his quirk can do, and certain quirks he has had in his lifetime. In fact, he once had a quirk just like his eraser ability, and he almost hurt somebody with it. He takes himself very seriously, and he is going to be doing his schoolwork at home. And if Mr. Aizawa does have anything else to say to him, then to please say it now. Being a hero is a very serious matter, and if Mr. Aizawa took his own job very seriously, he would not be in a sleeping bag right now. Mr. Aizawa slowly just zipping up the sleeping bag, and Miss Midoriya does go to head home. At least, back to the Yaoyorozu estates. Whenever he does get out of the gate, you do have Momo and Intelli, both of them simply waiting on him, before the three do get into a limousine, and people do watch them leave. Both of these two trying to get answers out of Midoriya about what he just did today. He was painting a target on his back. He showed off, well, strange things. And why? Midoriya simply just stating, of course he showed off strange abilities, and he had to go over the top. Otherwise, him simply just looking at Intelli, saying that she would have gotten expelled. What? Listen to me. I told you all those months ago to pick UA. And I was serious. However, I did forget to leave out that I would cover this portion of the test today. You see, one of us was actually supposed to be expelled. And, Well, with you being here, it would have been a guy in 1B by the name of Moru Moneta. So, first off, he's still in UA. Second, he's also in that class. I had to go over the top. If I'm too unbelievably powerful, then it just shows that everyone else needs to catch up. And simply by proving myself to that teacher, or Mr. Aizawa as you would say, well, I put myself in a bit of a predicament. I'm gonna have to come up with the quirks every single time. Or, well, every single time I'm at UA. So, hopefully I can do that. Do you think you could write me up a list? Uh, it, um, it- yeah, but what about the hero department chick you were talking to? Oh, her. That's quite easy. You see, we're gonna need her. In fact, she's a very big part of my plan. Your plan? Yes, I've told you once. And actually, something's odd about it. There's a hero here who's not supposed to be. What are you talking about? Well, the guy goes by Tomura Shimura, I'm guessing, in this timeline. His original name is Shigaraki. And I'm guessing that changes, well, at least answers one of my questions I've been having. I'm guessing the villain doesn't exist. And he does. Without him existing, without All Might existing, that means that, well, his grandmother, I believe, if I'm remembering things correctly, she was a user of a quirk named One for All. Without All for One here, One for All is stuck in the past, and is quite simply stuck with the original person's body. What are you talking about? Midoriya explaining the quirk, and telling her quite simply that, as far as he knows, One for All was a one-of-a-kind ability. And that's just it. There could have been similar quirks like it in the past, but, well, a villain that probably doesn't exist anymore, as far as I've seen, he created the ability, and gave it to his younger brother, who passed it down, who then passed it down again, until it hit, well, Nana Shimura, Tomura Shigaraki, or Shimura's grandmother. Then, it hit All Might. Now, I want to say that he's still around, but I also can't confirm that. So, I'm gonna need to look into, well, Toshinori Yagi. Now, I really hope he's still alive. Otherwise, this complicates plans. What needs to happen is quite simple. I need to find a way to make contact with Militia Shields. Hopefully, she's still working on that device, or, well, her father is. It's an illegal device that's called quirk enhancing technology. It will amplify a user's quirk and their abilities. If I can get my hands on it, I might be able to rewrite reality. And hopefully it does work out. If it doesn't, well, I'm probably going to be stuck here. So, are both of you with me? Now, Momo's not too sure what to say. This sounds very bad, and as far as she can tell, the world's normal for her. But Midoriya has showed her proof, showed her things, and even Intelli is confused. Midoriya has laid things out for her. And, yeah, it all makes sense perfectly. She can see where things line up, see where events are supposed to take place. but she also can't figure it out. Now, with that being said, they do go on to the next few days talking about this and working on it. As Midoriya. Whenever it does come time for the heroes versus villains, they do have random drawings. And a lot of people are talking about the fact that they might be paired up against Midoriya, the guy with weird quirks. Midoriya has not shown off any abilities yet today, and people are wondering about that. Now, Midoriya does one thing. He does manipulate reality around himself. Whenever it does come time for, well, Endeavor to pick out, well, teams, these are what Midoriya does. Midoriya manipulates reality to, well, change the balls in the box, basically. The teams were originally, as being drawn, were supposed to be him and Bakugo versus two other people. However, Midoriya manipulated it to where it was him and Ochako versus two people. Katie and Bakugo. Now, whenever it does come time, Midoriya does step out. Everyone watching as he basically has a cloak over his head, and all covering his body. Now, a lot of people are talking about that, and simply just asking about his quirks. Midoriya is simply just stating that he's not going to show off any yet. Now, with that being said, Midoriya, he is on the hero's team. Him and Ochako are heading in. Ochako is just asking him about his quirks. Midoriya just saying that he has a few useless abilities today. But at the same time, he does think he at least got a few good ones. He was unlucky. Well, he was unlucky a lot this week, so today shouldn't be different. I had a high week last week, then I had a low week today. Or low week this week. It kind of runs in a pattern sometimes. Then again, this is new. Midoriya just thinking. Okay, weird quirks that are useless. Midoriya, well, he doesn't show them off, but he does use the good ones. As Midoriya, he's beginning to emit a weird smell. It smells sweet, and it actually does smell very nice. And is whenever Bakugo does come charging in, along with Midoriya's sister. These two trying to fight against both Midoriya. As soon as they charged towards him, Midoriya immediately threw up his hands. And out came a bunch of wires. Midoriya creating a wall. Now, as soon as the wall slams shut in front of him, Midoriya simply does actually turn, and him and Ochako begin to run. Midoriya basically grabbing her by her wrist and pulling her. Midoriya telling her that she's going to go after the bomb, and he's going to distract these two. He's found a good way to use a good mix of his quirks. Now, this is whenever Bakugo, he blasts through the wall, and begins to give chase. As Midoriya, he is in a doorway. So they're just standing there asking Bakugo if he's really ready. And Bakugo, he's actually very calm, and a bit level-headed. A bit more than in canon, at least. He still is a bit arrogant right now, but that's because he's trying to fight and intimidate his enemy. Now, Bakugo, he simply rushes Midoriya, blasting away at him behind him and trying to move forwards. As Katie, she flies over Bakugo. And Midoriya knows what they're doing. Bakugo is about to hit him at close range. Then Katie, she's going to, as she simply stops. Midoriya is simply thinking. He called it. Before he simply flips himself around, and the cape encompasses the entire doorway. As soon as Katie blasts away at it, she shoots directly at the cape, which simply begins to fall towards the ground. And it goes completely flat, both these two being confused. Midoriya is just appearing out of the roof as he immediately smashes his fist downwards, and hits Katie directly in her back, her slamming down into the ground and directly onto Bakugo, who quite simply tosses her back up into the air, her immediately regaining flight and trying to blast directly at Midoriya, who simply, while standing on the roof basically, begins to move backwards and dodge around them. A lot of people confused as Midoriya just begins by moving his hand downwards, and the roof smashes directly into her back. At least a piece of, well, earth does. And she goes smashing to the ground, before Midoriya just flips himself and lands on his feet, telling Bakugo that was not going to work. Activating Extremis, as he begins to spark a bit. Bakugo trying to think. The guy has different quirks, so every single day he's different. In fact, that actually does sound pretty cool. An enemy you can't adapt to. Now, Bakugo rushes directly at Midoriya, and begins to blast away explosions. Midoriya is being able to block his fist by simply just smacking away his arms at the wrist, hitting him directly in his gauntlets, and going for body shots. Midoriya sending Bakugo flying away, Katie getting back up and directly trying to blast a beam of light and fire at Midoriya. Midoriya is just dodging out of the way. As soon as he turned his body, he was able to move. As soon as he turns back, Bakugo is standing, holding both of his gauntlets outwards. And he pulls one. As soon as Midoriya sees that, is whenever the entire floor gets encompassed in explosive fire. And Katie sent out a large blast in that direction, actually being able to cut through the building. Endeavor screaming out that they should not have done that. They might have seriously hurt Midoriya. As they see one thing. Whenever the smoke clears, there's Midoriya, with his hands directly blocking his face. And he simply just brings them down, asking them if they are getting serious. They gotta remember, he keeps versatile quirks. Extremis increases my durability. Midoriya is just running forwards and slamming his hands into the ground, flipping himself over and throwing a bunch of rocks into their direction. Whenever they do go to block and cover their face, Midoriya runs forward, immediately smashing his fist into the other gauntlets, before socking Bakugo across the face. And Midoriya's sister, she does actually blast away at him, blasting a continuous stream at Midoriya, as he begins to actually slide backwards, and try and walk through it, before simply just moving his foot and slamming it downwards. The floor cracking and breaking as it breaks open, and she falls into the lower level, before having to fly back up. As soon as he does, and tries to fly at Midoriya to hit him, Midoriya immediately just catches both of her hands, and simply just spins her. Spins her as she sends her flying past him, and she goes smashing into the wall. Midoriya telling both of them that it's no use. He trains very much on his quirk. And for right now, you're lucky I'm only using the good ones. Actually, these are the only ones I kinda got, besides Extremis. Heroes, win! Oh, she finally got there. Alright. Midoriya simply turning off his abilities, and walking over, holding out a hand to Bakugo, saying that he does at least have a good quirk. He actually felt that heat. Besides, explosives. Pretty badass. Bakugo taking Midoriya's hand, and so just saying, yeah. Well, good strategy too, I guess. Bakugo trying to stay a bit calm. This got his blood pumping, and whenever his blood's pumping, he starts to act a certain way. Now, with that being said, they do end these exams. And Midoriya does watch a few other people try and, well, do this. Watching as many people fail by simply trying to stick together. Or simply, in the case of Todoroki, him trying to go for efficiency. He almost failed because instead of covering the building with just ice, he tried to bait out his enemy with fire, bait them out with heat. Now, with that out of the way, at lunch later that day, Midoriya does want to pull Choco aside and try to talk with her. Now, whenever Midoriya does talk with her, she is a bit nervous. And Midoriya begins to try and explain something, simply asking if he can see her hands. And whenever she does hand it out to Midoriya, he begins to show her. Show her certain things. Show her that this reality is not put together properly. That crime is a lot higher because there is no All Might. That heroes are in desperate supply because of one simple thing. He fucked up reality. He doesn't know how, but it happened whenever he was younger. And his origins. Finding that Franklin Richards is actually Izuku Midoriya. And Midoriya, he's actually, well, Katie's brother. That's a very big shock. Especially since her and Katie are actually pretty good friends. Her trying to get answers and explanations. Midoriya is just saying that he does need her to not tell anyone. Please. For right now, he's trying to get people on his side. And if he can do it slowly and, well, one by one, it would be a lot easier. Momo and Intelli already know. I've had to talk with them before. And in fact, quite a lot of the people who are my allies are inside UA. I have no nefarious purpose. I just want to put the world back together. Since if I do, then I can at least try and stop, well, a crazy organization from trying to create super soldiers out of my brain matter. Yes, that sentence is just as weird as it sounds. But Choco is just walking away, and acting a bit different throughout the rest of her day. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed.